The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hello everyone. Today on Aging Horizons, we're going to be talking about hospice. What it is, how it came to be, what they do there, and how to find one and get some help if you're in the situation where hospice seems to be appropriate. This is not the end of your life. You're not giving up. There's some great things that happen in hospice, and we want you to know about them. So today, join us.
Summer in Montana is a great time to visit your local farmers market. Enjoy the social atmosphere while shopping for a wide variety of fresh, locally grown produce. Together with both WIC and Senior Farmers Market nutrition programs, you help feed your family 5 or more daily servings of fruits and vegetables for better health. You also help local ag producers and enhance the state's economy. So, for summer fun that's nutritious and helps Montana's economy, shop at your local farmers market.
"45 years, 2 packs a day. That's like $80,000. I thought I was just hurting myself until I fell asleep in a chair with a cigarette. The whole house went up. I lost it all. I knew smoking was expensive, but I never thought it would cost me everything."
The human heart. Even at its strongest, it's a fragile muscle. Chest and arm pain, shortness of breath, are signs of a heart under attack. But 3 numbers can save a life. Dial 911 at the first sign of a heart attack. Quick response from medical experts can save your life.
I was 45 and it happened to me, a heart attack.
Dialing 911 saved Ryan's life. Now he's here and he's healthy.
This message sponsored by Mission Lifeline Montana.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
Hello everyone and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Kimmy Everman, and we have a great show today. You may not think so because it's about hospice, but I have found it to be a very enlightening and uplifting topic as I researched and have some personal experience as well. So I'm really glad that our guests are here today to talk with us about what it's all about. First of all, we have Christy Zimpel. And Christy, you're the RN Clinical Manager for Easter Seals Goodwill Highlands Hospice.
Yes.
Okay, good. And then we have Anna Shaw. And Anna, you're the Spiritual Care Volunteer and Community Relations Coordinator.
Yes, that's
and
right.
as I asked you off camera, you're not a volunteer.
No.
You help with volunteers
Right.
and train and all that kind of stuff. Very good. Well, welcome to you both. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
First of all, Anna, let's start out with just a short description. What is hospice?
That's such a great overarching question.
I know it probably can't be short, but
hospice is holistic, whole person care for patients at the end of life. And that doesn't necessarily mean the last days of life. It can be the last months or sometimes even year or 2 of life.
Yeah.
And we really encourage people to think about starting their hospice care as soon as it's appropriate instead of waiting until the end, because there are so many benefits to getting all that support.
Right.
Hospice wraps around the patient and their family with all kinds of care, from medical support, pain control, to counseling, social work. Spiritual care is part of what I do, and we really recognize, that that each of our patients is not just a disease.
Right.
They're a person.
Right.
And
right.
that's how we want to take care of them.
Right. And how did it actually come to be? Because I thought that the story is so interesting.
Yeah, hospice has a great history.
Yeah.
When you look back to medieval times, you think about abbeys and monasteries and monks and nuns and the ways that they were looking to live their beliefs. And part of that was taking care of people who were traveling on pilgrimages and crusades
Yes,
and all
exactly.
these things that happened
Yeah.
back then. And
Yeah.
also people who were sick. And if you think about it, you know, disease during those times was
plague.
But every disease
Yeah.
was scary. You know,
Yeah,
if you
right,
got a
right.
strep infection, that
Right.
was very
It
likely
could be
the end
deadly.
of your life. Yeah, so these monasteries and abbeys took in people who were traveling or who were sick and took care of them. And that was the early origins of hospice, and they were called hospices. There is a place in Beaune, France, an abbey that people like to visit as kind of the origins of the hospice movement. I haven't been there, but I've seen pictures. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and then how did it sort of take hold in the United States, or I guess, or worldwide maybe?
So coming into modern times, if you think about the 1950s, 60s, technology was advancing really rapidly. Medical care was changing. There were monitors and tubes and all these beeping things that had never really been there before. And there was a woman in London, her name is Dame Cecily Saunders. She was actually trained as a nurse during World War II and then became a doctor. So her training was really impressive and amazing. But she noticed that people were dying in these really sterile, clinical, kind of not comforting or peaceful
environments.
settings.
Yeah.
And she felt like that wasn't right. And so she founded the first modern hospice. It was St. Christopher's Hospice in London in 1967.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then about in the 80s is when in the United States started to really take hold of this?
The first hospice in the U.S. was 1974, which is the year I was born. And then really soon afterwards, actually, the first hospice in Butte was our hospice.
Oh, wow.
In 1980. And it started as an all-volunteer organization. So it was really part of that grassroots movement to change the way that people were experiencing the end of life.
Right. That is a great story, Anna. Thank you so much, because it was so interesting. And I do want to add one thing that I saw while I was researching. It said a hospice is not always a place; it's a philosophy. And I thought that was beautiful, because I think when you hear a word like hospice, hospital, got to go to this terrible place and die alone and all that kind of stuff, and it isn't that way at all.
Yeah, and actually we don't have an inpatient hospice, and most communities in Montana probably don't have an inpatient hospice, but hospice care can be provided wherever the patient calls home, whether that's their house or apartment or a nursing home or assisted living. Hospice can come to you.
Super.
Yeah.
So, Christy, as an RN in this system, what kinds of things are coming from that perspective in hospice?
Well,
I mean, a more clinical or medical.
So we typically look at the person and everything that they have going on. So your pain, maybe you just have some dynamics at home that don't quite relieve whatever symptoms you're having. That's where we come in and provide whatever that addition could be.
Right. And I know when my dad was on hospice in Minnesota, and as it evolved, they came to visit him and kept him at home where he wanted to be, and it was wonderful. That's why I was so excited to have you two on, because it really was great for our family. We just have a couple of seconds left, but I wanted to mention to you, Anna, there's also bereavement counseling afterwards for the family, right?
That's absolutely true. And we start helping patients and families with grief before the patient dies and continue. The official time frame is 13 months after a patient dies. We're there for their family. We've been known to help people a little longer than that when they need us.
And I tell you what, when I was in Minnesota when my dad died, they offered me services, and I live in Montana. So it was a pretty wonderful experience all the way around.
So glad you had that.
Yeah. So folks, we have a whole lot more to talk about. This is a wonderful thing, wonderful programs and benefits. We want you to know all about it, so please come back and join us.
Every generation produces heroes, men and women who step forward to defend our country in time of need, no matter the personal cost to themselves. And though we can never fully repay them, we can make sure they have access to low-cost, long-term care when they need it. That's what Montana's Veterans Homes are all about. If you've got a hero in need in your family, call us. We can help.
In Montana, we know all about responsibility and personal accountability. Don't pay another medical bill that you don't understand. Take charge. Review your medical bills and call your provider right away if you have questions. If your bills are too confusing, call Montana SMP, the Senior Medicare Patrol. Call 800-551-3191 and get connected directly to a local office. Call Montana SMP today.
This is Sergeant Jones. Please respond. I was separated from my squad. Requesting backup. Anyone? Please respond. I'm all alone here.
Gentlemen, this is a secure federal facility. Do you have your Montana Real IDs?
ID. I am Captain Lewis, and this is Captain Clark.
I'm sorry, I can't let you in.
Can't go into a federal facility, can't fly. Let's go back to the river.
Yes, we'll float home. Let me check the Google. What's a dam?
Discover more at mtrealid.gov.
Montana Real ID. It's the real me.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're talking about hospice today. We're here with Christy and Anna. And Anna, let's talk to you next because we've talked about what hospice is and a little bit about its background. How does a person take the step to get there though?
Yeah, there are probably multiple steps.
Okay.
A first step is probably doing what your audience is doing right now and watching and learning about what hospice is. And that's really important so that you can start to get comfortable with the idea. You can talk to your local providers before you need them. That is okay. People walk into
your
our
local
office.
hospice providers, okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or you can talk to your doctor about it, and your doctor should be able to answer some of your questions. When it's time for hospice is when a person has a terminal diagnosis from a physician, or it could be a PA or NP, and a prognosis of 6 months or less. Yeah.
PA and NP.
Physician's assistant or nurse practitioner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I won't make you give a quarter for acronyms.
All right. Yeah, we get a little shorthand sometimes.
Yeah.
The order for admission to hospice does have to come from a physician right now.
Right, okay.
But the diagnosis can come from another high-level medical provider like that.
Right.
So a terminal diagnosis with a 6-month prognosis, that doesn't mean that there is an end date fixed. It's just kind of a guess. So if a doctor is saying you have about 6 months, or it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't have you in 6 months, that's when it's hospice time. Mm-hmm. And there are all kinds of diseases that become qualified for hospice. Mm-hmm. Cancer is what hospice
probably
was built for.
Yeah.
But we take care of a lot of patients with heart and respiratory diseases. We take care of a lot of patients with dementia, more and more all the time. Patients with other organ diseases, patients with things like ALS, almost any disease that can become terminal, we pretty much know how to take care of.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think, I've talked to many Medicare beneficiaries about hospice, and the 6-month thing kind of scares them a little bit. But then there's also folks who go past the 6 months and think, oh no, what's happening now? And as you said, it's just a guesstimate in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And and it does happen too that people go off of hospice sometimes.
All the time.
Right?
Sometimes we review their medications really carefully and eliminate some interactions or some unnecessary medications, and lo and behold, they start to do a lot better. Or they get that holistic care in their home where they're comfortable, and they start to do a lot better.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we gently discharge them and tell them, come back when you need us, and we will be here for you.
Right, right. And, you know, and part of what you do, Anna, is a spiritual care. What's that about?
Spiritual care in hospice is one of the neatest things that I've ever encountered in my life. It does not have an agenda. It is not necessarily religion or religious. It is about, you know, whatever you think of as your spirit. And I think of that as what makes you you, right, and what makes you alive.
Right.
And that's what I get to help take care of. And that can be anything from keeping somebody company, and keeping their spirits up a little bit, to calling the priest when they want to have a priest come in. And I just get to go in and try to meet the patient's needs without taking anything of my own agenda in there. I don't really have one. And it's actually kind of funny. I call myself the Loosey-Goosey Chaplain. I'm not even really a chaplain yet, but for a lot of patients, it's a relief when I can go into them and they say, well, I don't really go to church. And I say, well, I don't either. But I know all the priests and the pastors.
But we all have a center. Yes, we all have a center.
And I love, you know, my spirituality and my faith now is so much about taking care of these people. And it's wonderful.
Right, right. Well, and, you know, I was going to say that when my dad was having spiritual support, they brought a guitar player to the house and played guitar for him and brought him music and things, and it was really quite wonderful.
Music is huge, and if you don't mind, we actually we have a music program in our volunteer program, which I also take care of, and it's called Threshold Choir. There are chapters of Threshold Choir all over the world now, but it's a cappella singing, women who provide a cappella singing for patients. At bedside, hospice patients.
Wow.
And it is beautiful.
So nice.
Yeah. And so we're starting a chapter in Butte. I know they're working on starting a chapter in Bozeman. And I just talked to a lady who's interested in starting one in Red Lodge. So it's growing in Montana. It's really exciting.
So Christy, from a clinical perspective as an RN, that stuff is great for patients, isn't it?
Yes.
It really helps, lift their spirits and...
I think for the most part, Anna has, you know, the best relationships with our patients. She doesn't have to make them do anything, doesn't have to make them take their meds. So she gets to do the fun stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Patients really like that.
Exactly. And just, we just have a minute left in this segment, but Christy, I just wanted to get you into the conversation a little. From a clinical perspective, hospice, the nurse visits, as you said, medication, vital signs, just making sure people are healthy from a clinical, not healthy, coming along as in a clinical perspective.
Yeah. So our staff are really, they're there to make sure that this patient, you know, makes it through that transition in the most comfortable way possible.
Great. That's just great. Well, we have a whole lot more to talk about, folks. Hospice is all over our state. We want to make sure you know how to find it. We want to make sure you know what resources are available for you to educate yourself. And we really want you to know that it's a wonderful program with lots of great support, even support for the family and the caregivers. We have so much more to talk about, so please stay with us.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Questions about Medicare and other types of insurance? Contact the State Health Insurance Assistance Program office to get answers to questions like, what is the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? And how do you decide if you need Medicare supplemental insurance? This insurance counseling program is not a sales program. It is available to provide answers to your insurance questions. For more information, call the State Health Insurance Assistance Program office at 1-800-332-2272.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Good care is your right. In Montana, there's over 11,000 beds in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. If you or a family member needs assistance or help in obtaining information about care issues and placement options, call 1-800-332-2272. If you or a family member need information about Montana's long-term care resident rights, or if you need help solving a problem or a complaint about a nursing home or an assisted living facility, call us at 800-332-2272.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here talking about hospice today. Back with Anna Shaw. Hi. Anna, welcome. And we also have Josh Terry. Welcome, Josh. And you are a social worker and a bereavement counselor within this hospice system, correct? So let's talk about that, because obviously it's something huge. Right? And then I think the other thing that I really love to talk about in terms of hospice is the fact that it's not just the patient, it's the family. Right. And also that you follow up with the family after the passing of the patient.
Right. And in some sense, I have the longest relationship with the patient and the family. So when a patient comes on, I'm going to do an initial assessment. I'm going to get to know what their needs are going to be from an emotional and psychological perspective. And then I work with the patient and the caregivers to make sure that their emotional situation is as comfortable as possible too. And then that continues after our patient dies. Right. I provide bereavement services to those caregivers for technically 13 months. I generally am open to seeing people longer than that. And I also provide services to the community. If your loved one wasn't on our services and you're going through grief, you give me a call. Right.
Well, because it's a heavy burden, isn't it? Yeah. Now, let's talk about caregivers for a minute in this scenario. How do you work with them? Because caregiving can be a pretty tough job, especially an end-of-life caregiver. Right. And they're usually a family member or more family members, right?
Yeah. And they have no idea. A lot of times they feel like they have no idea what they're doing. Right. They feel lost. Right. And so sometimes it's about just providing guidance. Sometimes it's about just letting them know that they're not crazy. Right. And sometimes it's actually like putting in interventions, like how can we meet the needs that your loved one has and not make you crazy. So it comes in a lot of flavors.
Yeah, and you said back to the patient that you do an extensive sort of interview to begin with, and what are you looking for when you're doing that? What the person wants in terms of the next 6 months maybe, or tell us a little bit about that.
Right, so I want this to be as comfortable for them as possible. We talk about comfort in relation to medical things, but we're also talking about it from an emotional perspective. So I'm looking for any signs of depression or anxiety or any just general discomfort. And I look for ways that I can relieve some of that difficulty and just make the process easier. Right.
You know, I know in my own case there was depression and there was some medication that he felt better taking, and for just a little while it helped him through it. Do you see that that's the kind of things that happen? Or sometimes
I don't see medication come up all that often. Usually we can just come up with interventions that work. Sometimes medication is wonderful though. It just depends on the individual needs.
Yeah. And you also talked about pain management. Are you involved in that at all? Or?
No, I leave that to the nurses. I just deal with, I guess I deal with the emotional pain.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. And you're seeing that person on a regular basis, aren't you?
I usually see, on average, I see my patients at least twice a month. But I will see them weekly or more than once a week if they need it.
If they need it, yeah. And then the rest rest of the team wraps around that, right? And they're making visits and doing things as well?
Well, and that's one of the really wonderful things about hospice is that our team is really integrated. When something comes up with a patient, I go into the nurse's office and I say, this is what they told me. And when a patient is having some kind of psychosocial struggle or whatever, they come into my office and say, what can we do? And so we really work in a well-integrated format.
Right. Well, and again, that was my experience as well. So you guys are doing a great job. You know, Josh, in our last couple of minutes here, can you tell us, what do you think is the most important part of your job?
I don't know that I can come up with a most important, but a lot of the work of my job is letting caregivers know that what they're doing is good. Yeah. They're doing good enough. Sometimes that's the word.
There you go.
You're doing good enough. You're doing better than you think. There's always little issues that come up. One of the most common ones is when a patient stops eating. Yeah. We are so trained to feed somebody because that's what they need to live. Right. And I get to go in and tell them it's okay if they don't eat. It's okay if the only thing they eat is cookies. It's okay if all they do is drink soda, and it's okay if they don't even do that.
Yep, great. Well, Anna, before we go, I just want to talk a little bit more with you about the volunteer part of your job. Are you looking for volunteers?
Always, always. And that's one of the most uplifting things, I think, as I look at my group of volunteers and think just what amazing people who choose to come and be friends with individuals at the end of life. And it's so great for the patients to have somebody who is there not because it's their job, right? Not because they have to be.
Right. They're not getting paid.
Right. They're just there because they want to be there. Yeah. And that's an amazing feeling for a patient. I have a great group of students, Montana Tech nursing students.
Oh, super.
Yeah, I have 12 nursing students right now who are visiting our patients, and they are a dream. They have such great energy and excitement, and the patients love them. But I also have a retired physician in his 90s who's one of my volunteers.
Well, you know what? We're going to put up your information again just in case anybody watching wants to reach out and be a volunteer. And also talk to our producer on your way out.
Okay.
Because she'd be a great volunteer. Well, I have just enjoyed so much having y'all here today. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. It's a very, very important place to be and to help people accept that this is life. This is just another chapter of life. So thank you both very much. And folks, I hope you've learned a lot about hospice today. I certainly have, and I feel really kind of up about it. It sounds like a pretty great program, and if you need it, they're there to help. Please reach out. For Aging Horizons, I'm Kim Everman. Thanks for being with us.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.